We are live. It's Friday. It's 6:30. I don't even know what day it is. I think it's the 12th, Friday the 12th. It has been extremely busy at the office. We just moved into the new location. For those of you who are clients of mine or who want to come and consult with me, the new office is 720 13th Street in Modesto, California. The old office is no longer occupied, so don't go to the old office. No one's there. You have to go to the new office, which is 720 13th Street. We just moved in 2 days ago, and it's been an absolute nightmare. If I look exhausted, it's because I fucking am. Anyhow, tonight's topic is child support. As you may or may not know, child support is a little complicated, and it sometimes leads to unfair results for some parents. So I'm trying to explain it the best I can, so that you have some knowledge when you go into the courtroom and you're dealing with the Department of Child Support Services or with your private attorney, or if you're by yourself, you can get sort of a handle of how it's being calculated. Again, the disclaimers that I have to make is that I am an attorney here in California. If you have your glasses of wine, please pour them out because I've got mine. I am an attorney out of California. I've been practicing for 7 years. I do family law, criminal defense, and some bankruptcy cases. I own my own office in Modesto, California. So I am licensed to practice here in California only. Hello, everybody. It's nice to see everybody. I'm glad we could all join. So again, going back to the disclaimers, I'm an attorney here in California. You are not my client because we haven't signed a fee agreement and you haven't taken what's called a retainer. We have to have an agreement, you and I, in order for me to be your attorney. And I say this because I have to do it through the state bar. They ask me to set disclaimers. Also, another thing is make sure that if you ask me questions tonight, you do it in a fashion that you do not disclose your confidential information or you disclose something that could hurt you in court. Make sure that your information is if you ask a question or you give me information, that it's not going to harm you in any way. So I'm going to give everybody just a few more minutes here, maybe a minute or two before we get started, and we'll start discussing child support. I know it's a hot topic for a lot of people. This feels so good, by the way. It's been a long week. So if you have questions tonight, we're discussing child support. Again, don't disclose confidential information. This conversation does not create an attorney-client privilege. I'm here giving general law advice on child support in California. I can't give you advice in Georgia, Texas, Nevada. That's another state. I can't even mention anything about it because that would be the unauthorized practice of law. So I hope everyone's had a good week. I hope everyone is enjoying or beginning to enjoy the weekend. I'm glad that we can meet at this hour. I'm going to try to keep it short tonight because I am tired. No more than 30 minutes. Depending on how many questions I get. Some people did ask questions through the story when I put the field up, but then the story disappeared and I forgot to write down the questions. So I can't pull them back. I don't know. Somebody maybe can DM me and show me how to get the questions somehow. I went through my highlights to see if I can pull up the old story and then see what questions were asked, but I couldn't figure it out. Anyhow, I know there's a way to do it. So let's get started on child support. Child support is governed with Family Code Section 3900 and through Section 4253. If you want to read for your own enlightenment over the weekend, the Family Code section, so you have a better grasp of California, please do so. But you can just Google a good reputable law office or Google a child support in California. There's plenty of articles out there. You don't want to read the code section. It'll give you a headache. Trust me, it gives me headaches all the time. That's why I drink wine. Anyhow, what is child support? Child support is a monetary amount. How do I feel on child support? A good friend of mine asked me how do I feel on child support, and I'll ask that. Let me write that down because I'll forget it. I want to just go on general terms right now, and then I'll go into specifics, because if I go into the specifics and start answering specific questions, I'll lose sight of the overall picture. But I do have my own reservations about it. Going back to what I was saying, child support is a monthly amount payment that one parent pays the other parent The person who usually receives the support is the custodial parent. The custodial parent is the parent who primarily has the child or children. I discussed custody and visitation last week, and we talked about timeshares. Timeshares being who primarily is taking care of the child. With whom does the child primarily reside? And so the person who has the kids most of the time, that's the custodial parent. The non-custodial parent is the one who usually pays child support, and this is through a monthly amount. What triggers child support? Usually a separation or a divorce. Sometimes I've had cases where the parties had a one-night stand and then they created a child together, and there was no separation. They were never together. So if you have a child in common, and you're separated or you're not together, you can ask for child support. Now, child support, it could be requested obviously through the courts in the county in which you reside. You could do it on your own. You could do it with an attorney, or you could do it through the Department of Child Support Services, which is a statewide agency. Can you collect child support while they turn 18 and are still attending college? No, you cannot. Unless there's some sort of other extraordinary expenses based on some disability, you may. But I'm sorry, I shouldn't have. If you guys want to wait for those questions to be answered at the end, I'll do it at the end because I don't want to interrupt my talk. But going back to what I was saying, see, I already lost my train of thought. Oh, with child support services, you can request child support through the Department of Child Support Services through a private attorney, or you can do it yourself. There's paperwork that has to be filled out, which is a request for order. It's the form that you normally would file with the custody and visitation orders or modification. And then there's also the FL 150, which is an income and expense declaration. There's other forms too, so it's best to consult with an attorney. There's also the self-help centers that each county has for the most part. Now those counties have, every county has, the state has forms you can use, but it's best to try to get someone to help you with that, okay? Because there may be other forms that can be more complicated, or that one county may require and another may not. So having said that, we now understand that child support is to help the non-custodial parent, because it's presumed that the custodial parent, because it's presumed the custodial parent is expending their resources, their money to take care of these children. So when in determining support, the courts or the judge will come up with what's called guideline. Guideline support is what the state it mandates, or not necessarily mandates, but what it considers fair under the circumstances. If you go back to those family code sections that I referred you to, there's actually a formula that explains how guideline is determined. And if you guys are interested in knowing what the formula is, it's right here. You know, it's pretty complicated. I didn't pass math, but that's why I'm a lawyer. So now that I disclosed the formula, what does that even all effing mean? Because you're not going to be calculating that on your own. I wouldn't be able to calculate it through using that formula, but luckily for you and me, there are calculators. There is the guideline child support calculator that you can Google. You can Google it on the computer, on the internet, obviously, and it comes up, and it'll give you the fields where you enter the information necessary for determining what would be the fair child support amount if you're requesting it or if you're going to be paying it. It's a little complicated, but there's instructions there. Obviously, this video is not going to go into that because that would take way too long. But if you will go into the child support calculator online, you have to have several things. The best thing that you can have is all sources of income, which is the other party's pay stubs, your pay stubs. If they're receiving alimony, maybe their order for alimony, so you know what they're receiving. If they're receiving other sources of income from businesses, profit and loss statements. So you want to be able to have a clear picture and a very comprehensive picture of what it is that the other person is receiving as far as income, and yourself too, because you're going to calculate that. Once you have that, you're going to need your timeshare. I talked about this last week. What is timeshare? A timeshare is the percentage of time that a child has with the children, or the parent has with the children. So, sometimes I don't know if many of you have probably been to court, many have not, but what most people want is a 50-50 timeshare. They call it the equal timeshare. But sometimes some parents have 17% timeshare, 20% timeshare, depending on what it is. I think having alternating weekends, so for a father to have alternating weekends with his kids, I believe that's 20%. Don't quote me, but my head's a little foggy right now, and that's because I'm tired. It's not because I'm drunk. So that is definitely something that you want to consider and know, because the timeshare is definitely something that is plugged into the child support formula. You also want to know if there's child care expenses, healthcare expenses, things like that, because that's added or deducted. All right, and also mandatory union dues, mandatory retirement is deducted from all that. So if you go into the child support guideline calculator, it will tell you what you need to put in the field. Okay. Also, what you want to know might be able to bring with you or use in the calculation support is the taxes, the other person's taxes or your taxes, because the number of dependents does obviously affect the support that's going to be paid. Not only that. But if what was the other thing? Sometimes the other parents, the other spouses. How can I say this? Let's say you have a baby daddy who got remarried to a rich lady. That may affect the bracket, the tax bracket, and so there may be some issues there. You may want to discuss that and get that information and discuss it with a lawyer, because that's when things get a little bit more complicated. But for basic terms, you need your pay stubs, the timeshare, union fees, the medical expenses that each one's paying, mandatory retirement, and tax liabilities, the number of dependents. A lot of people want to claim dependents to make their income look less, but that's going to hurt you. If you're claiming a lot of dependents, it means you're receiving tax breaks, which means that you're getting more income at the end of the day. And so it actually hurts you to claim more dependents if you're the one paying. Okay, it actually happens that way. So collection of child support. So we discussed filing the paperwork at the courthouse. Okay, you don't have to figure out the timeshare and all that stuff. If you're representing yourself, if both parties are representing themselves, the judge will do that for you. They'll look at your incomes, because they'll ask the other person to bring their information as well as yours through what I called earlier the FL 150, which is the income and expense declaration. Both of you will have to fill that out, mom or dad, or mom, whoever. Now we can have the same gender parents, but both parents will bring their income. The judge will look at that form, which will have it should have copies of pay stubs attached, and he'll plug in the information on the guideline calculator. The courts have what's called a DISO master. I have a DISO master where you type in that information and it gives you the guideline amount. Again, the guideline amount is the monthly amount of child support that the non-custodial parent pays each month to help with the cost of raising a child. Okay, I know that's a lot to swallow. I'm going to put this video up on YouTube so that you guys can watch it over and over again if you guys want, if you're bored at home, so you guys can figure out what I just said. But once the judge determines the guideline amount, that'll be the amount of the court, and the judge will make an order. Once you have a child support order, you can do all kinds of fun stuff with it. At that point, if the other parent doesn't pay, the best course of action I tell my clients is to go and sign up with Department of Child Support Services, because they can garnish wages, they can intercept stimulus checks, they can intercept the tax returns. They could, I believe, they do suspend your license for non-payment of child support. So the Department of Child Support has a lot more power than an attorney in general terms. I can do wage garnishments. I do wage garnishments, and then I send them to the employer of the non-paying, non-custodial parent, so that we just get the money directly. It really gets hard when the other parent is self-employed, and that's a whole different topic. I'll probably do a video on child support and self-employed individuals, because that's when things can get a little tricky, and people like to sometimes not play games, but stretch the truth and not be completely honest with you as far as their income when they're self-employed. So so once you get that order, the other party, the non-custodial parent, is supposed to pay the guideline amount. You guys can come to an agreement. The judge doesn't have to. Let me go back. So when you go to court, if you have an attorney, Your attorney is supposed to be the one who is preparing the income and expense declaration. Your attorney should know the guideline amount before you ever step into court. Both parents should know the amount before they step into court. They should have the guideline amount. If you have an attorney, they should have already advised you, so that when you go into court, you already know what the worst case scenario, best case scenario through the guideline calculator amount. And then so when you go before the judge is going to rule accordingly, and you're not blindsided. Again, that's if you have an attorney. If you go by yourself, the judge will do that for you, and good luck to you. I hope that things work out, because you're going in blindly. But it's the way. Some people just can't afford an attorney, and I understand that. I get that. Okay, so the other thing I want to say is that if you go through the Department of Child Support Services, and not on your own, and not with an attorney, the Department of Child Support Services will assign an attorney to your case, and the child support attorney is actually representing the state. They're not there representing mom, they're not representing dad or the other parent and the other parent. They're there to represent the state, to make sure that this child is taken care of. And so the child support attorney is the one that's going to actually run the DISO master or run the guideline calculator and come up with the amount that should be paid for child support. Okay, so that the child support attorney will then discuss it with both parents and say, this is what I came up with. If one of them objects and says that's too much or that's too low, then you go in front of the judge. The judge is the one that decides in what the child support amount will be, and that's in child support court. Here, for example, in Stanislaus County, there's a department dedicated specifically to child support cases involving the Department of Child Support Services, and that's in Department 15. Other counties handle things differently, but that's the way they handle it here. And so that's, if you go with the Department of Child Support Services, that's who will be enforcing or creating the order for child support and then helping you enforce it at the end. So there's beneficial to open a case with Department of Child Support Services at time, because they may be slow to begin, but they're definitely effective at the end of the day. So once you get that order, like I said, collecting it could be interesting. If the other party quits their job in order to avoid paying support, which does happen, then you can do what is called an imputation of income. You could bring the party back to court, and the judge will ask, why did you quit your job, or why did you lose it? And if they don't have justification, or if they lost their job because of some shady reason, the judge will say, well, based on your training, education, and experience, this is what you should be earning, and then they'll make an order based on that figure. So don't quit your job. Don't quit your job, because I've seen it happen, just because you don't want to pay support, because it's going to be a shit show for you. It's happened. I've seen it happen over and over again. It's happened over and over again. It's not going to come out in your favor. Now, if the thing about going with the Department of Child Support Services is that if you go to them, and if you're receiving aid, like TANF from them, you relinquish your right to receive child support from the parent, and you give it to the state. So the state's the one that's really going after the other parent who's going to be paying. And in that case, you need the state's permission to be able to come to an agreement on child support or modify it. So things get tricky there. Again, I'm going to be doing a bunch of videos. If you have any suggestions on stuff that I want to discuss, we could dive into those specifics more later on. But I want to make these videos short, because I know it's Friday and everybody wants to get going. But if you don't have, if you have an attorney, but you aren't involved with the Department of Child Support Services, and you and the other parent have come to an agreement on child support amount, you guys can come to an agreement. It could be below guideline, but there's some things that the judge is going to want you to say, basically, that you understand that you're requesting less than guideline amount, and that you believe that the amount that you'll be receiving, which again is supposed to be less than guideline amount, is enough, or is in the best interest of the children or child to be able to support them. Again, guideline support is the amount of support that is calculated by the state or by the judge, and it's presumed to be fair and equitable. So it's really a formula that the judges use, and they put in your income, and again, I discussed all the deductions they could use, and then the computer program spits out a number, and that's the child support amount that's going to be paid. So you could go below that, because that's pretty high. Sometimes can be high, and it can result an unfair amount, especially when you have one parent who has one child, the oldest more, and then the other parent has a young child more. And then you have kind of like this weird situation where one parent has 80% over child A, and then the other parent has another 75% over child B. So as you can see, things can get really fucked up and crazy really fast. So that's when you should probably consult an attorney or go with the Department of Child Support Services, because doing that stuff on your own, you'll get twisted and it becomes a little more complex. So I'm losing my train of thought here. Jeez. So again, you could come to an agreement with the other parent. So, but again, if you're receiving aid from the state, you're gonna have to get the state's permission or let them go, because you gave up that right. You gave it to them to collect. So you don't have to go with the guideline amount. You could always come to agreement on support. And child support orders are not set in stone. You could always go back and modify them, just like you can go back and modify a child custody and visitation order. I know I discussed that last week, when one parent gets child custody or child visitation. If that parent was to get more visitation, if he had, for example, a 20% timeshare, and he goes back to court and gets more time with his kids, he's probably going to be paying less child support if they're at the same income as they were calculated in the past. And so he should be, that'd be a good reason to go back to court and get support modified. Beware, however, that don't file paperwork and just say, well, hey, all of a sudden I have less, or I have more time with my kids, so I should be paying less support. Because if you received a raise or something happened where the other party is receiving less money, you could actually end up paying more. I remember I had a case one time where the father, who wasn't represented, filed for a modification of child support. Okay, the guy didn't consider that he'd received a few raises, and although he got a little bit more time with the kid, his support went up. He was trying to get less support, and his support actually went up because the raises took him over the top. So he was pissed, but hey, that wasn't my client. Like, he should have gotten an attorney. But too bad, so sad. I know sometimes it's a cruel world, and I'm the evil one. Lawyers, they could be vampires. But you could also terminate support if you guys decide, we don't want the court to agree to any of to be part of this. You guys can come to an agreement on your own. You don't ever have to go to court. I've met plenty of people who don't ever go to court, and the other parent gives support to the other. So there's a lot of things to consider. So I'm gonna open up the lines now for questions. I know one of my good friends asked what I thought about child support. I think guideline seems to be fair, but like I said earlier, when you have a separation or divorce, you have a splitting of incomes and you have a splitting of expenses. And so for the parent who's paying, usually he has to get another apartment or has additional living expenses. So his income's already tight, and so he's got to pay child support on top of it. It becomes problematic and very extraneous for that individual. But then again, you got kids to support. These kids got to eat. They have school supplies, especially now with COVID. You got to get laptops, and if the school doesn't provide them, and clothing and food. So what's more important, a fancy apartment or your kids? So there's always that ethical dilemma going on. Okay, so that's my answer to it. Let me see. I'm asking something about the parents. No, I'm sorry, Catalina. I don't want to talk about custody and visitation, but if you want, message me on my direct messaging, and then I'll talk about custody and visitation on another video if I think it's worth answering. But no, I don't want to go into child custody and visitation just yet. So if you have any questions on child custody and visitation, or not child custody and visitation, any questions on child support, I'll be more than happy to answer them. If the other parent gets married, can you go back and collect more because now you can include the spouse's income? No, you cannot. So the other spouse's income is relevant because for tax purposes, because there's different brackets. The child support calculator I discussed, which you can go online. If you go online and Google child support calculator California, it'll pop up. If the other party's income sets that other the others, your baby daddy or baby mama, into a different tax bracket, it may affect the support. But you're not supposed to use the other parent's income. It's not the way it works. My ex has been withholding my kids. He refuses to give them back. Well, do you have a court order? I mean, if without a court order, it's very it's difficult to get the cops to have them hand over the kids. So if you don't have a custody order or a custody visitation order, you need to get that filed right away. If you're in Stanislaus County, call my office, 209-300-7825, and we can get started on that. But or Google or reference a good attorney in your area. But yeah, you need a court order because the police will not enforce anything without a court order. You need that. Yeah, take them to court. Take them to court. Any other questions on child? I guess we could just forget child support. I'll just answer whatever you guys want. Yeah, please message. You'll get my auto response, so don't get mad. People get mad when they get the auto response, but it's true. If you want me to answer your question appropriately, make an appointment. 209-300-7825. And I apologize to people. Please be patient. We just moved into a new office here in Modesto. It's about a block away from my old office, and it's been a pain in the butt. That's why I look tired. And the phones were working earlier, but they're not working anymore. So I'm going to be working tomorrow on a Saturday, waiting for them to come in and get that fixed. 209-300-7825. You got it. Yeah, that's the phone number. That's the phone number. So, yeah, you need a court order. I think someone asked me if you could intercept the stimulus checks and other stuff. Yes, you can, but go through the Department of Child Support Services. Please go through the Department of Child Support Services. Yes, please take a screenshot. Do I handle juvenile dependency matters? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. What is my hourly rate? My hourly rate currently is $300 an hour, but I don't like charging $300 an hour. I like charging flat rates for the most part because it is fair to the clients. They already know exactly what they're going to pay. And I don't like billing clients nickel and diming them. It doesn't seem fair. What am I drinking? I'm drinking Josh. It's cheap, but it's effective. Man, that half hour goes by really quickly. I feel like I'm rushing through all this information. And sometimes I'm thinking, I don't think I have enough to talk about. But there's so much that we can discuss. Child support, it usually ends when hold on. Is it true when you don't want to give the child support then? Let's stop. I don't give out my prices in public for obvious reasons. Is it true when you don't want to give the child support, then you can't arrest? Can you be arrested for non-payment of child support? Yes. You can be what's called held in contempt of court. If the other parent takes you to court under what's called a contempt action, you may be incarcerated for non-payment of child support. So yes, you can get arrested. So, yeah. Child support continues until the child reaches the age of 18 or graduates high school and is 18. So let's say, for example, someone turns 18, but they're still in high school. You're going to be paying child support until that child graduates high school. And at that point, child support would end. You can also be required to pay child support again if that child has some sort of disability and requires additional support beyond the age of 18. Then obviously the judge can under circumstances require child support payments beyond the age of 18. Let me see. Does anybody else have any questions on a Friday night? All right. I think we're going to wrap up. I think we have 1 more minute left. I know things are weird with COVID-19, but hopefully we get the vaccines out there soon. I had COVID already last year. It hit me for 4 days and then it went away. So I don't know if I want to take a vaccine again. I don't want to put that thing back in my body. You never know. Okay, much love to everybody. I think we're winding down. probably gonna go smoke some hookah somewhere and have a good night. Much love to everybody. 209-300-7825. I'm attorney Will Salgado, also colloquially known as Dr. Divorce on YouTube. I hope you guys enjoy my videos. I'm putting them up. But you guys have a good night, okay? Have a good weekend. Keep up the good fight.